Hello, welcome to the show. This is Emotional Badass, where Moxie meets mindful. I'm your host, Nikki Eisenhower, life coach and psychotherapist. And on today's episode, we're discussing the principle of two wrongs don't make a right. These are lessons from my Grammy, y'all. Wherever you listen, please hit that follow and subscribe button. It helps us grow the show. It helps the show work the funky algorithms so that more and more people get suggested emotional badass so that they can grow, they can thrive. We still get messages of people figuring out very recently that they are highly sensitive, that they are empaths, and that the show is helping people all over the world. Thank you for all of your efforts since the beginning. You, the listener, has been my main marketing team. Thank you so much for helping me live my purpose. To all of you who have responded to me personally about last week's episode, thank you. Some of you said you didn't know how important it was to hear that you were loved no matter what you chose to do with the election. I didn't realize how important it was for me to have to say it. So thank you. It's been said that when we lose people we love, the grief doesn't end. You never really get over it. It just changes shape and it changes weight over time. I've accepted that in some ways I'll always be grieving what I lost when both my grandparents, who I'd lived with from about 6 to 12 years old during my formative years, they both died when I was 15 and then 17, which fueled me becoming a runaway at 17. It had a massive impact on my life, losing them in that season. Other than the obvious sadness and the disruption of this loss, the loss of their love, the loss of their support in my physical, on this plane life, I find myself now in my 40s mostly grieving having never been able to have adult conversations with them, to learn more about who they were, why they were, where their wisdom came from. And I'll never be able to thank them for their influence on my life, their influence on my personality, their influence on my morals, my values, and my beliefs. I am here today because of their influence in my life. I was the eldest of 3, and I was third eldest of my grandparents' 16 grandkids. My 2 older cousins, a boy and a girl, they were off and off doing their own thing. And my cousins were constantly dropped off at my grandparents' house, and I lived there. I stepped into being the cousin who was more often than not in charge of my younger siblings and all of my cousins. And for all intents and purposes, I was most often left in charge. My grandmother held a high standard for me. And it was hard sometimes for me to process and understand this as an energy and as a directive. She expected more maturity out of me. And I only recognize now that she believed my mom, her youngest of 6, to be irresponsible, unstable, and immature. So to try to compensate for me and for my siblings, my Grammy intentionally guided me to be extremely responsible, which for my personality type, my temperament, was overkill. It was a message I didn't really need, or I needed very lightly and not strongly, because I was born with a strong sense of responsibility. I was born with a strong sort of mother goose or mother hen propensity to take care of anybody younger than me that was around me. I didn't need that blown up or pressured. Part of why I show up on this microphone every week is to give an offering to all of those out there who crave deep understanding. We're a personality type, y'all. We're a type as a highly sensitive person. How our nervous systems are wired matters to how we move through the world. I found that one of the universal truths of being a highly sensitive person is that we crave deep understanding. If we have deep understanding, we will do almost anything from that depth of understanding. When it makes sense to us, it gives us a great sense of peace. So I do the show for those out there who crave this deep understanding, who feel steadied for life when they have a deeper understanding of these dynamics that we're in every day, all day, every moment. I hope that when I share my story, you can reflect on what's similar and what's different in your own. My grandmother would drop knowledge on me, but she wouldn't explain. A lot of things in my young life felt like some kind of riddle I was tasked with figuring out. Like my grandmother was ahead of her time when it came to food. She'd tell me, "Hey, Nikki, that's not food. I won't buy that for you," when I'd want Little Debbie's or packaged snacks that were really big through the 80s and 90s. It's a highly processed food. And I saw all the kids at school having this in their lunchboxes. I would sit and spin on this idea. In some ways, the birth of my own overthinking was not just trauma-induced. It was created in the voids of my own childlike lack of understanding. It was born when I couldn't get answers from the outside, from the adults that surrounded me. I'd overthink in an effort to try to find or create my own answers. And that would have me spinning and spinning and spinning in my thought centers in my head. I would spin on this concept, I don't know how many countless hours. I'd wonder, what is she talking about? It didn't make sense to me. In my child's mind, my brain hadn't fully developed yet. It felt like a math problem that I would work on it and work it again and again and again, as if the answer was just out of reach and it was available if I just think about it a little bit more or in a little bit of a different way. Very often, I couldn't find more of an answer to soothe my seeker spirit, so I'd spin and spin and spin. To my kid mind, all I could think was, it is food. She's wrong. It's sold in the grocery store as food, and parents put it in their kids' lunchbox and they eat it. Anything you eat is food. What is she talking about? I didn't know if she was just shutting me up or putting me off, dismissing my desire for these fun packaged sweets. I didn't know if she was screwing with me, knowing it really was food. It epically confused and frustrated me. Today, I can give myself what I needed back then. This explanation to my sweet inner child. Today, if I could go back in time, and we can't, so the best we can do is use this moment today to offer whatever our inner child needed, to try to give that piece of an answer, that satisfaction. Now what I can tell her today is, hey, sweet girl, what Grammy meant was whole foods that come from animals and grown from the ground. These are the real foods that are healthy for our bodies. Processed foods are broken down. There's chemicals added. They're put in plastic. It's technically considered a food, but it's food made by science instead of food made by the natural earth. But it's not the real healthy food that I want inside of your body. Your mind, your muscles, your stomach, your whole body works best when your body isn't trying to break down unnatural things like the chemicals and the composition of these processed and packaged foods. If she had been able to say this to me in such a way, I don't think I would have overthought. I would have been able to have a very different journey, a very different relationship with food, because I would have had a different conceptualization, a different understanding from her message about food, health, about my body, about how all those things relate. If you want to get hundreds of hours of exclusive audio and video so that you can personalize your recovery, your growth process, and support my work in the show, come find us on Patreon at patreon.com/emotionalbadass. This is the place for monthly bonus episodes not available publicly. We have monthly video live stream Q&As where you can ask questions, get exclusive discounts to everything else we offer, and access to our community of emotional badasses. It's the quickest way to support the show and support your own healing journey. Patreon.com/emotionalbadass. Here's another message that I would spin and spin and spin on. When my sisters would hit me, they were younger than me, and I'm giving this example, and I'm talking about pretty basic sibling rivalry stuff from my era. I wouldn't call this abuse. I wouldn't call this bullying. I would call this very normal, stereotypical sibling struggles. And if my sister, one would do this more than the other, would slap me or pinch me, nothing that really hurt me or damaged me or scarred me, just pent-up sibling frustrations playing out in the pecking order. Well, I was left in charge a lot. And as younger siblings do, they don't necessarily like the power of an elder sibling to be in charge of them. What made sense to my immature brain was that if someone hit me, it was right to hit them back. I knew that I didn't start it. I knew I was bigger. I knew I was stronger. And I knew from Grammy's teachings, because I was told and taught this, that I was held to a higher standard than the younger ones. And I don't disagree with this fundamentally. A child of 10, rightly so, has a different level of expectation from adults in behavior and understanding than a 5-year-old or a 2-year-old. My middle sister in particular would hit me, and if I hit her back with a push or a slap on the arm or the leg, Grammy would punish me. And she would look at me and say, 2 wrongs don't make a right. And I had no idea what to make of that. I would spin on it and spin on it and spin on it for hours and hours and hours, for years and years and years. It would turn and turn and turn in my head, trying to figure out how her message made sense. What did this message mean to me? Why did she keep giving it to me? I could not figure this out. For years living with her, I'd get punished. I'd get in trouble multiple times for retaliating when hit. All Grammy would say is, "No, Nikki, you can't do that. 2 wrongs don't make a right." It didn't make sense to me because she was only telling me what not to do, not to hit. She didn't articulate what I could do instead, which left me feeling very stuck, very powerless, very frustrated, very sad, very misunderstood, very unseen. Her message wouldn't make math sense in my head, if you will. I'd sit and try to work it out like a math problem. Okay, my sister hit me. I hit her back and I'm in trouble. That's unfair. I'd cry. I'd pout. I'd exclaim, "It's not fair. She hit me first." All while my sister would laugh in the background, pointing at me, dancing in a sing-songy, finger-pointing delight. "You're getting in trouble." Einstein says, one of my favorite quotes from him, "You cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it." All my mind could do was see the confusion in Grammy's teaching. And all I knew how to do was turn it over and turn it over, repeating it in my head as if the wisdom would somehow jump out, present itself, show itself to me. It never did. Grammy was right, but her limited delivery made it nearly impossible for me to garner the wisdom out of her teaching. It would take me many years to understand what she meant. She wanted me to develop toward a healthy, strong moral compass. And she believed in a no excuses strategy that when another person wrongs you, there is no excuse for you to do the wrong thing back. The solution isn't and can't be doing an equal wrong back at them. How could anyone ever win or have respect this way if both people engage in wrongdoing towards what's right? A right doing doesn't emerge or morph out of wrongness. I understand now that she wanted me to have a moral compass that pointed due north. She wanted me to live from such a moral compass that she wanted me and needed me to know that going low when someone else goes low was not for me. That wrongdoing, like me hitting my sister back in retaliation, these are weak bricks to pave the moral maturity road we each face walking. When I look at America, meaning the state of our mental health as a collective population, the state of our maturity individually and collectively, I've often in the last 5 years thought, am I one of the few who were raised with this value that two wrongs don't make a right? Is the media, are the politicians out there, even people that years ago I would have said are spiritual teachers, the advocacy of talking heads that's been popularized the last few years, every media mouthpiece from the legacy media to the media on all the different social media channels that we can tap into now. Do they know this wisdom? Do they know it and reject it? Choosing to go low in retaliation as if they're taking a moral high ground? Or is this just pure ignorance, pure lack of exposure to this teaching, to this offering of a principled moral compass? I don't know what I'd do without my own moral compass. Because when life gets wonky or weird, or are you wrong? Am I wrong? What's going on here? I don't know. It just feels messy. My moral compass is what helps me find direction. It's what helps me stay true to myself. It's what helps me make decisions that I don't regret in the future. Last week's episode was about how we're being encouraged to sickly attach to great upset and stress, especially through our politics and media. We know that church attendance and adherence to religion, weekly church community and support have been dwindling over past decades. Some recent data suggests we may be having a surge of a return to religious institution right now and in coming years. And while I do not personally subscribe to any man-made organized religion, I very much believe for all the flaws in religion that could ever be argued, the light, the silver lining, the goodness for individuals and society may have been in coming together toward moral compass development. I wonder if this is in part why I look out at what is shouted in advocacy in our Western world. And often what I see is someone doing something wrong in the face of another's wrongdoing, as if something right will emerge. And then it doesn't. And the public is left with wrong and wrong, with little else modeled. We've seen it at college campuses, where students scream at the top of their lungs against the opinion of professors, many of whom have been fired and run off of campus or run off of their careers. In my book, that's rude and blatantly disrespectful and black and white wrong behavior beyond what is reasonable. But it's as if a reaction is better than any real possible solution. We've seen the left name their own campaign strategy as love, while using extreme hyperbole and fear to compare Trump to Hitler. The estimates vary, y'all, but Hitler killed at least 6 million Jews and 5 million non-Jews. That's 11 million people. Trump has not killed a single person to our knowledge. It's objectively a wrong comparison meant to demonize and terrify. Because someone's frightened of or disagrees with the other side or with conservative politics? If we don't embrace the principle, two wrongs don't make a right, then it seems to me the only available default position is to try to justify meeting wrong behavior with more wrong behavior. And then the old saying, an eye for an eye makes everyone blind, applies. This isn't wisdom. It certainly isn't mature to retaliate with equal and opposite wrongdoing. It's reactionary. It comes from our most immature parts being allowed to fly into action. It's easy, it's cheap, it's fast, and it gets cheers from other people's immature parts when we pop back with a smart-ass comment or we hurt someone else because we feel hurt. The ego feels that as a win. But that's a surface level, cheapened win, y'all. It's a grown-up version of nanny, nanny, boo-boo, you got me, now I got you. Self-respect isn't available if you make cheap choices like this. This kind of tit-for-tat response, it does feel good to our egos, and we all have egos. But it just feels good to our ego in the moment. Yeah, you burned me, I burned you back. Yeah. It feels good to us in the moment. To the part of us that righteously just wants to win, wants to burn, dominate, wants to get the last word. It's how immaturity feels powerful. And it's not just cheap, it's fleeting. It's made of cobwebs instead of sturdy cloth, and it won't last. If you observe people who like to play and win tit-for-tat games, you'll notice it can become an all-consuming way of being. It can start to feel very low vibe, very energy vampire-y. There's an increased nastiness when people do this instead of an increase in kindness or an increase in compassion. And when the ego wins so cheaply, there's no real forward motion solution offered. This is what would have helped me soak up this wisdom earlier in my life and would have helped me stay high above those lowly invitations to react whenever someone wrongs me. This is the explanation that would have really helped me. I wish my Grammy would have been able to say to me, "Oh, sweet girl, it's hard to be the eldest. It's hard to be in charge. It's hard to not give in to our immediate impulses. I understand the impulse to want to hit back when someone hits you. And I want you to know that if someone is attempting to really hurt you, you have full permission to defend yourself and fight back. But your sisters aren't really attempting to hurt you. They're younger. You have a lot more power and freedom and decision-making power over them, and they don't have that power over you. The only power they have as smaller, younger, little human beings is pushing your buttons and getting you to react. That's a big power to make an older sister lose it and hit. This is why your sister shows glee when you hit her back, because you fall right into her trap that she set for you. She was able to control you and make a nasty behavior of hitting come out of you. Don't ever give anyone the power over you to be able to bring out the worst in you. You win great self-respect and don't play into power-struggling games when you make the mature choice not to hit her back in retaliation. 2 wrong things don't make a right. 1 + 1 = 2. And 1 wrong + 1 wrong = 2 wrongs. As the eldest, I want you modeling for the younger ones that we don't take the invitation to do a wrong thing because of somebody else's wrong or bad thing. I want you to rise above. I want you to be the right in the face of the wrong. In the end, you will feel better about not letting yourself get dragged through the mud of bad behavior. Someone asked on my narcissistic content on social media recently with such defeat and honesty, is it ever okay to retaliate? Here's my answer, and take what works for you and leave the rest. Always, always, always process what I'm offering or anyone is offering through your mind, your body, your heart, and your gut. Experiment with it. Don't automatically accept wisdom offered as wisdom until you examine that wisdom, how it may fit into your life, your worldview, your personal moral compass. Let the wisdom offered be tested and let it show you if it's valuable to you or not. Is it ever right to retaliate? The feelings of retaliation are as normal as human breathing. The desire to want to, as normal as waking up, as normal as going to bed. I will admit to you, especially my more fiery 20-something self, from my anger, from my rage, from my realized powerlessness in my family of origin to change any of the abuse that happened to me, in realizing how little my mother, my biological father, and my adoptive father had done to actually keep me safe and keep me unharmed. I wanted to retaliate so much. There's a real anger to our grief process. And trauma work is realizing what was taken from us, what was stolen, what is lost and can never be found again. My innocence was taken from me. And the pride I had in being an older sibling that wanted to protect my sisters, the realization that I hadn't protected them, all it made me want to do was retaliate. The honest truth, if I don't sugarcoat it or try to cover it up, and I'm really transparent with you, is that I fantasized about murdering them both. Yep, me. Big-hearted, empath, mother goose energy that almost any child feels safe in. Full-on fantasizing about the pros and cons of me taking it upon myself to take them out. The story I told myself to give my fantasy permission was that I could ensure that there would be no other victims in any way, shape, or form. I stewed on this. It ate me alive. It made me miserable. I was drinking way too much. I was bitter. I was angry. I was out of control in terms of my nervous system. I was raw. And my grandmother's teaching, in the depths of my rawness, my grandmother's teaching, her words, her intended messages, figured out years after her passing, held me when her arms no longer could. Two wrongs don't make a right. And I knew for my own respect in myself and the way that I wanted the people that loved me, my Grammy and Grandpa, to be proud of me, even if they were no longer here. Not because of any law, not because of any possible punishment, not because of what other people would think of me, just because of the guidance of this long dead woman who loved me enough to give me hard life lessons, who was willing to instill moral compass messages into me, even when I didn't get it, even when the message missed. It was there. It was given to me. It was implanted, and it grew as I grew so I could make sense of it. From her teachings, from her heart, from her mind, in my darkest moments, I let go of these fantasies. And it was in that letting go of the retaliation energy that I could begin to truly move forward and actually use my precious energy to heal me instead of use that precious energy to retaliate and derail my own life. Healing is learning how to not give our life force to abusers who have already taken far too much. When I see more and more and more data indicating suicide continues to be on the rise, which means what we've done for 20 years in mental health towards suicide prevention, it's rotten, it's failed, doesn't work. We have to do better in mental health. We have to do better as a society. I often find myself wondering if anyone who's gone through with suicide has ever had anyone share with them and give them this wisdom. If you have in the past or are now struggling with suicidal thoughts, or like I shared, homicidal ones, I am willing to be the person to tell you if you'll allow yourself to listen and take it in from me. No matter how sad you find yourself, no matter how much someone betrayed you, no matter how much someone has hurt you, even if you are the person who hurt you, no matter how much you hurt from perceived failures, no matter how bullied, no matter how addicted, no matter in financial struggle or in pain you find yourself, 2 wrongs don't make a damn thing right. Don't make a next wrong move just because you've been so wronged. Make a next right move. Don't hurt yourself. Don't kill yourself. Make a choice to drive to the hospital. Make a choice to call 911, or if you're in a different country, the number for your emergency system. Call a support person in your life. Go to a 12-step meeting. Go to a support group. Show up at a church service. Stand on your damned head or spin in a circle. Do nearly anything at all other than the next wrong thing. It is wrong that life has hurt you so much. And it's wrong if you try to fix it by doing another wrong thing. You have that power to change course and to steer away from wrong and towards right just the second you make that decision. Disallow the next wrong thing. No one ever seems to tell us this in the depths of depression. And it might be the most important message. Healing depression is about stringing together acts of self-respect. This is what digs us out of the hole. It doesn't matter how you feel. You have to act against those depressive feelings. Your pain is not righted by you doing harm to yourself. Your pain is righted as you evolve in how you take care of yourself, which is your own willingness to show up and love you. And if you aren't willing to show up and love you, what are you doing? Let it be the number one priority as long as you need it to be. Aren't we all worth helping ourselves move towards doing the next right thing? Imagine how the world shifts immediately if we all took this on. You are powerful to change this world. Maybe not in the ways that media and social media sells to us. The ways to heal the world are to do your personal work, raise your vibration, learn to stop surviving, and give yourself grand, expansive permission to thrive. You are worth it. Please decide that it is so. If you need help figuring out how to practice peace, how to bring more peace into your world, you are always welcome every month that we run it to come join the Peace Course. If you want extra special care, Reach out to my team on Instagram. We have a new offering where I'm doing some group coaching towards peace. What a relief. We don't have to even entertain the wrong thing anymore. Just the right. Light and love to all of you. I am an emotional badass. You are an emotional badass. And together, we are where Moxie meets mindful. Light and love. I'll see some of you in the Patreon, and I'll see the rest of you right here on our live public feed next week for a brand new episode. Till then, take care. Just consider the simplicity of just doing the next right thing. If this episode resonated with you, if there's anyone in your world that you think might benefit from it, please share this episode with them. Light and love. Bye-bye.